You want to be filled by the Holy Spirit? You want to experience that power? Then you should be intentional about seeking the Holy Spirit. And it says that they began to speak, right? They were filled by the Holy Spirit, meaning enabled, empowered for proclamation. And he says, and they began to speak. You know that word, speak there, it's the word declaration, proclamation. In other words, you were empowered by the Holy Spirit to proclaim, to declare, right? And it says that they declared the mighty deeds of God. That's what they were declaring. They declared the mighty deeds of God. They were enabled by the Spirit to declare the mighty deeds of God, everything that He has done. But he says they began to speak, right? And they say they were speaking how? In different tongues, all right? In different tongues. So let's take a moment to think about what that means. The word tongues, the Greek word simply means languages. That's all it means. They began to speak in different languages, right? I mean, how can we say that with certainty? Well, verse 8, verse 6, verse 11 explains what tongues mean. For example, look at Acts 2:6, right? In verse 4, they began to speak in different tongues. But look at what it says in verse 6. When this sound occurred, a crowd came together and was confused. Why? Why were they confused? Because each one heard them speaking in his own language. Do you see that? So in verse 4, when it says they began to speak in different tongues, it only means that they began to speak in different language. That was the miracle. That was the supernatural empowerment of the Holy Spirit, that He enabled these believers to speak in other languages. Hey, I'm Mexican American.